Good morning from the annual meeting in San Diego. We're pleased to be here with Dr. Michael Patterson. Thanks a lot for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to speak with you this morning about an important topic regarding practice management. I think that a lot of ophthalmology practices are shifting gears in the way that they're managed and owned, and specifically, many private practices are now considering private equity in terms of practice management and ownership. Can you explain for us a little bit about how this works and why it's important for ophthalmologists to understand this process?
Sure. I think, if you look at what's really happening in the last few years, it's really been kind of transformative. 20 plus years ago, this was tried, maybe even 30 years ago, and it didn't work too well. But the game has changed a little bit. The companies have gotten smarter, and certainly have tried to figure out a way to incorporate the private practices with the private equity groups. And so the question really becomes is, as you start your practice or as you're at the end of your career, is what are your goals? This benefit can be bigger for people towards the end of their career and maybe less of a benefit for someone starting out. But then again, it can be a very good benefit for someone starting out as well. In our practice, for instance, we're in a 2-surgeon-owned practice with 12 optometrists and multi-location practice. And for us, we've got an older surgeon, my father, who is on the tail end of his career, his last decade or so, and me starting out for the first decade. And the question really becomes is, what do you desire? And you lose a little bit of control if you sell out to private equity, in fact, a lot. And for us, we've decided at this time we don't want to go that route because of the inability to do what we want to do for our employees and what we want to do for ourselves and our time and for our patients.
I'm glad, Michael, that you brought that up because I think that there are some pros and some cons to this type of arrangement. Can you be a little bit more specific in some of the reasons that you decided in your practice that this wasn't right, and also what some of the counter arguments for were maybe this would be right for us? What was sort of the balance sheet there for you?
Yeah, I think, for us, the reason we did not go this route was, we felt we had the ability to kind of create our own private equity. We were able to acquire multiple practices. We own eight locations and multiple optometrists. We felt like we could gather our own patient base doing that. We live in a little bit more rural area, so we might have a little bit bigger advantage than someone in a larger city. Saying that, for us, the biggest thing was having control of our employees and control of our own lives. And for us, we felt very important of what we do for our employees. We couldn't do that if we were with a corporate group, and that would be understandable. We have simple bonus structures and things for our employees that would have probably been removed. Another reason is we own our own real estate, and so we didn't know how we would incorporate that into a larger private equity group, whom often don't want the real estate. They really want the practice of what's revenue generating. But the pros for people that are looking into it, I think there are significant advantages to it. Number one is you have way less management headaches. You're not the one having to worry about hiring and firing. You're not the one having to worry about if your optometrist leaves or your doctor leaves. They kind of do that. They have a lot more capital that's available. So if you need equipment and things, obviously in our practice, we have to decide, is this cost effective or not? Can we make money on this? They do too, but they have more ability to have money dispensable at the time.
I think, Michael, that one of the things that I hear commonly from colleagues who are young surgeons is the concern about losing control over the potential decision-making regarding practice direction, whether it be in terms of staffing or in terms of equipment or real estate. Do you think that that's a reasonable concern? Meaning, how involved do you think that some of these equity groups are in managing this sort of day-to-day or overall direction decisions versus how much does the physician play a role there?
I think it depends on the equity group you join. You've got certain practices that have given up 51% and they have zero control. And so every situation is a little different. You're going to have to vet the group that's coming to talk to you, and we've certainly talked to multiple. But there are groups that, on the flip side, don't want any practice management decisions. They really just want to have the revenue stream. And so you have different options. The only problem I see of that is if you're not going to get compensated fairly well, then why would you want to go through the hassle of all the management decisions if you weren't going to receive the compensation for that? So there's a price that you have to pay in that scenario. To me, for us, it wasn't a huge benefit. The control thing's not about making every decision in the practice. Certainly as a physician, I don't think you want to do that. You've got to have managers and CEOs and things. but it was more of a control of your own personal life and your own personal goals, because your alignment of what you see your career might not be in line with what's the private equity group.
Yeah, right on. I appreciate what you're saying. I think that you and I are going to be sitting on this couch 10 or 15 years from now and perhaps having the same discussion, but with the benefit of sort of looking back and saying, well, 10 or 15 years ago, it'd be interesting to see, or, it was interesting to discuss it then and how it's evolved. Of course, we don't know what the next 10, 15, 20 years are going to look like.
That's right. I mean, the question is going to be, what will happen, and we're all just predicting and pontificating what's going to happen. But for now, I think, the discussion for us lies is you have to make a decision one way or the other, but you don't have to make it hurriedly. You need to take your time.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today on this really important practice management topic, and thank you to our live viewers for your support. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you.